Well, good morning, sir.
Good morning. I don't. Yeah, I know. I deserve that laugh. So we had agreed to 9:45 as we almost always do, and then at like 9, you were like, "Hey, just 9:30 also works. No rush." But
Easy breezy. I
if
was
you could
just
do
like,
9:30, I'm good for
take it.
9:30. And I was like, "Yeah,
I
I
could
could do
leave it.
9:30, no problem." And then it's just that like old Navy SEAL expression,
It's 10
smooth.
o'clock right now, by the way, everybody.
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast, like that expression from the
Yeah.
Navy SEAls or whatever. I was really feeling that this morning because like I wasn't running late at all. I was
No.
like very much ready to go. All I needed to really do was make a cup of coffee and move my way up to my office. And then all of a sudden I was like I felt this 9:30 deadline and I was like, oh, like, and I just started scrambling, and everything is going wrong, and I just like, and then, oh, so like, it went right off
What I
the
love is that you
rails.
still missed the 9:45
I
deadline.
missed the 9:45. I missed
Yeah.
all of the deadlines. So yeah, like
Hey,
no pressure. I would have been 9:30 just fine. As soon as there was like, yeah, let's just make it happen. I was like, oh, okay, what do we do? Okay, so anyways, there it
yeah.
is. So all right, well, good
So
morning
it
to
is
you,
also
sir.
April. It is also April Fools. I don't know if you know
Hey,
this.
yeah, there you go. My daughter's with her mom, so I
So
didn't
I
get
have a
pranked this
question.
morning.
I have a question for you because
Okay,
my dad had a hard fast rule that he enforced,
okay, enforced. I like
which
it.
was which was no pranks after noon. Like there was a
Yes,
deadline. 12
12
noon. You
o'clock.
this is a real thing. This is just something that my dad
100%.
made up to okay.
No, no, no.
That
I
actually
We
makes me
had the
feel
same
better.
rule. Yeah, we were right there too. It was like you get your pranks out of the way. You mess with my morning coffee, but you don't mess with my dinner. Like that was the
Yeah, that's right.
no. I don't
Were
know.
you were you a good pranker? Because I was terrible at it. I just thought pranking was lying. Like I was just running around being like, "Hey, my brother fell down a well." Just kidding, April Fools, right? And my dad would be like, "Get out of here, get out."
Yeah, no, that was about the extent of my pranks. I never did like the saran wrap on the toilet or anything like that. It
Yeah,
was just like, yeah, it was just like malicious lies that got meaner and meaner as I got older. Right, like you
yeah,
know.
that's right.
Hey mom, my wife
Okay, well,
miscarried, that sort of stuff, right? Like,
right,
hilarious things. So
really hilarious high-end pranks.
exactly. Exactly. That's how I got into comedy, actually. So, no. Stupid.
Just me
Anyways,
too, buddy. It just all was a long, windy road to comedy. That's
yes.
exactly how it worked.
So,
Okay,
all of
welcome
this,
everybody to the walk off. We may need to just cut all this off,
we
but
probably should.
you're like,
So,
we probably won't, but we probably should.
we probably won't move forward.
Okay, so
So, this all
welcome to the
brings us
walk
to the
off,
big
everybody.
news. Charlie Montoya was fired, correct? Oh, wait. April Fools.
Extended, and we are going to get
Extended.
into it. Yes, Montoyo given an extension. We've got all sorts of stuff coming up on the show. Actually, it's a nice big show. Huge month for us, guest wise too. Oh boy, not to overuse the word here, but we're going to take one out of Mark Shapiro's books and say a juggernaut of a month guest wise for us. So Wednesday we actually get to sit down with David Sampson, which is very
That's a fun one.
exciting.
Yes,
Jeff
David Sampson.
Blair
Oh, Jeff Blair's good.
is going to be a Monday, April 11th. We've got Danny Jansen and Ryan Barucki joining us sometime in April after spring training.
I've heard of both those guys.
I would hope so. Running this Blue Jays podcast, I would hope so, buddy. Okay, so we are going to get right into it here. All the housekeeping, socials, and stuff like that at Walk Off Podcast on Twitter, the Walk Off Podcast on Instagram. You can join our Discord, which is in the show notes. Of course, Patreon. Always very, we graciously thank everyone in Patreon. You've got the names off the top of your head, right, Adam?
Not even close.
Okay, so everybody who has joined Patreon, thank you so much. We do appreciate it. Um, let's get into it. The show looks as followed. Charlie Montoyo given an extension. We'll dive into that. Blue Jays have announced their opening day starter, which, by the way, live streams start on opening day, April 8th. Adam and I are doing the
Same.
first live stream of the year. Dexter Fowler added to this Blue Jays roster on a minor league contract. The condensed schedule that's taking place right now because of the lockout is going to be a crunch on players, and we'll kind of take a look at what the Blue Jays schedule in April and May is going to unfold as. Michael Conforto and Scott Boras, man, I feel like they've kind of backed themselves into a corner, doing everything they can to spin his free agency as a success to this point, although he is really the only major free agent that is still unsigned. Albert Pujols, buddy, pretty darn cool going back to the Cardinals for his final year of baseball. He has announced that this is it, so we'll talk that to end the show off. Let's dive in. Charlie.
Dive in. Charlie is here long term.
So this was announced just today, this morning, that Charlie Montoyo, manager for the Toronto Blue Jays, whose contract is up at the end of this year in 2022, was extended another year. So he is now under contract for 2 years until the end of the 2023 season, with 2 additional team option years on top of that. So basically, if the Blue Jays decide they still want Charlie, then they roll over the contract to the next year.
How do you feel about this?
This is interesting because I was on this Yankees podcast just talking about the AL East and Blue Jays a couple days ago, and I was asked about Charlie Montoyo, and I brought up his contract extension, and I even said I don't think he's going to be extended until they see where the chips lie after this 2022 season. And 2 days later, less than 48 hours, and I'm eating my words. But how do you feel about this personally?
Well, now that it's announced, I feel like it's probably just for the best. Like, let's just not have question marks all year. Let's just go with Papa Charlie, and let's just, make it work.
You know what, man? You summed it up really well there. Even, I know you were joking, but calling him Papa Charlie, he does do a really good job of fostering a family-like atmosphere in that clubhouse. They are very culture driven on that end of things, and Charlie does that better than a lot of managers does, which is make everyone feel like they're a part of something and everyone's got their back. Now, there are moves Charlie did that constantly drove me nuts last year. However, this roster is a little bit more Charlie proof than it was last year, to be honest. They have substantially better defense, and so you won't see Charlie trying to do the defensive dance at the end of games where he's pulling guys out and putting in defensive replacements. And, you're just like, this is the guy we need Breivik Valera in here at this point. Like, why, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Every manager is going to frustrate its fan base. I think I agree with you. I think probably just going with what they know and with this core is comfortable with might not be such a bad idea.
I just want to be this, like, the silver lining perspective on this.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, there's a lot of Blue Jays fans that have been calling for his head for years now.
Years.
Right? There isn't, like, a surplus of glowing managers that are available to replace him with anyways, right? Mm-hmm. Whoever we bring in is probably going to be a first-time manager at the MLB level if we do replace him. I know some of the names have been thrown about, like a Stubby Clapp or a Russell Martin or whoever the case may be. Is that really the shakeup that we want to have happen? Like, as we're approaching what is the most important part of this whole window or whatever we've been calling it, right?
Exactly.
Like, it just feels like, let's not rock the boat, go with the devil, so to speak, and let's just swing away.
I'll be honest, man, I really do believe that the bullpen last year was not Charlie's fault, and he handled it as well as he possibly could, and that the injuries and the fact that guys were just giving up runs when they shouldn't have really was not his fault. So, it's one of those things where Charlie went with what he could go with.
Yeah. Now
Did anyone want to go with Chatwood? No.
you're dancing down a dangerous path, Scott. I can't
Yes.
go with you too far down that road. I don't want to become a Papa Charlie apologist. I don't
No.
want to claim that he is a good manager. He's not a top 10 in the league. He's not above average. What I will say as a silver lining here is that I do trust Shapiro Atkins. So if they think this is the
Yes.
right move, I think this is the right move. And that's about as good as I could say.
We've both gone through phases where we have called for Charlie's head
Yes.
ourselves,
Yes.
personally. So I don't want it to come
Figuratively.
across like I'm apologizing. I'm not apologizing figuratively. Yes,
Let's
we're not
clarify
actually
that.
out there with. We're not out there with a guillotine.
Before
no.
YouTube takes our channel down, yes, of course. We don't want him to get Will Smith.
I
or
am
anything
not.
Like that.
I am not apologizing for Charlie Montoyo. I just feel like there were a lot of games lost last year that a different manager wouldn't have made a difference. Is all I was kind of saying.
No, absolutely, and yeah, we did get dealt a raw hand with the bullpen, especially at parts of the year last year. All right, well there we go.
So, speaking of Charlie, he did actually come out yesterday and announced that Jose Barrios is going to be the opening day starter for this Toronto Blue Jays squad in 2022. No real big surprise. I mean, Jose Barrios was the guy this front office targeted and went out and got at the trade deadline last year. They spent 2 top 5 prospects in the system in Austin Martin and Simeon Woods Richardson. They locked him up to that 7-year extension. You know, like this is the guy that they've kind of earmarked as just that, the guy. So of course he's the opening day starter. I think it was interesting once he was named that the rest of the rotation kind of fell into place. And because I was very curious about how they were going to massage that. And I don't think it makes that big of a difference, but I was like, where are they going to slot the lefties? So it breaks down as right underneath of Barrios is going to be Kevin Gausman. Slotted in under him is the big lefty, Hyun-Jin Ryu. Then we've got Alek Manoah, and rounding off that 5 is going to be Kikuchi in that 5 slot. So they've got the lefties kind of breaking up those righties. It's pretty much how we expected it to be. Do you care about how this lines up? Are you fine with it? Like,
yeah, I'm completely fine with it. I think it's kind of exactly what I expected. I think.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's official now, but it's felt official since we let Ray walk away.
Yes.
Like,
especially once they brought in Gausman, it was like, okay, I think this is going to maybe Gausman gets that.
I never
number
was
1
in the
slot
camp that Gausman was going to be in the opening day. If Ray was still here, it would have been a coin. I think you give it to Ray, Cy Young winner.
Yeah,
right. Like I think you give it to him. But when he left, it felt like Barrios was the guy. We spent all that capital to get him. Even if we brought in like Garrett Cole or someone on that level, I think Barrios is still the guy for nothing else other than like he is kind of in that category anyways. Yeah. And he's been with us, and this seems to be the way this team likes to operate is not necessarily just homegrown, but like there is an advantage given to the guy who's been there, the incumbent, if you will, to use a political term. So
and he is the man on this roster who is locked up with the most term. I mean, he is a Toronto Blue Jay until 2028. That's very cool. Substantial. Exactly. So I really like this starting rotation. I do see it as one of the stronger rotations in the American League. Personally, it's definitely a top 3 or 4 in just that, right? The American League. If there is any point of concern for this rotation, it is not the actual rotation, it is the depth, because after those top 5, you get into Ross Stripling, Nate Pearson, and then it's a pretty substantial drop-off after that. Bowden Francis, friend of the show, Nick Algier, maybe, is one of those depth guys in that AAA spot that might get a call. You know, like, it's a pretty substantial drop, so hopefully everybody stays healthy, obviously, but Ross Stripling is a nice little layer of depth, but under that.
Yeah, I do just want to when you say there isn't a whole lot of depth at the starting position, it makes me want to panic, and I just want to calm the fan base a little bit and say that, like,
Yes.
nobody has starting pitching depth. Not like we're looking over at the Yankees and we're like, well, they've got 10 guys who could be Garrett Cole. Like,
No.
I mean, they might have more depth than us, but they also it's a little bit more of a fragile depth, right? Like, there's a lot of
Yes.
question marks around their
They do have
rotation.
more depth, but because they need
They're
it.
going to need it. Yeah, exactly.
They're so injured all the time. Yeah, exactly. And even a bunch of those guys in their rotation are guys with injury histories. So, yeah. No, agreed. So speaking of depth, the Blue Jays made a pretty interesting move yesterday. Dexter Fowler was officially signed to a minor league contract with an invite to camp. And I love this move for a lot of reasons. And number one, it being that if you look at this Blue Jays organization, one of the biggest Achilles heels is their lack of outfield depth
Yeah.
in the minor league levels. They don't really have an outfield prospect that is pushing on the major leagues, that's knocking on the door. Probably their top outfield prospect is Desan Brown, Canadian kid, extreme speed, great skill set, but he's probably going to get his start at high A this year with the Vancouver Canadians. He's still got at least 2 to 3 years of development remaining. So to watch them go out and get a guy like Dexter Fowler, 36 years old, he's been there before, clubhouse guy, history of winning, especially if he's prepared to play a little AAA, he could be a really nice layer of depth, because if you look at the outfield depth, if there is an injury to Tapia or Gurriel or Teoscar or Springer, it's Josh Palacio, and then under that it's Malik Smith. Some of the Blue Jays fans might remember Malik Smith from his Tampa Bay Ray days. He's bounced around about a half a dozen organizations over the last 3-4 years. This is a guy who profiles as a AAA player. He doesn't hit. He doesn't get on base. He's fast and he's defensively sound. So having Fowler definitely allows them to breathe a little easier if there's an injury. I mean, this is something that obviously isn't going to move the needle. However, 2017, Scott, if they signed Jay Bruce with Fowler, would have been thrilled, right?
We won the offseason. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
Exactly. Scott, I don't know if you're up to date on this or not. We don't use the term injury on the walk-off because that's a jinx, right?
No.
So we go with bad
tacos. My apologies.
That's the term,
bad
okay?
tacos.
So we have Dexter Fowler in case someone in the outfielder has a case of bad tacos and has to miss some time.
Like, Dexter Fowler is a guy who is major league average. Like, over the last 3 years, I think he combined for a 740 OPS, 97 OPS plus. So just under major league average.
Yeah.
This is by far a depth move, but we need it.
You need depth every once in a while, for sure. He won't be a hole out there. I know there was definitely, felt like, what was it, early September, late August, where we had like Kevin Smith playing third base and Palacios out in center field, and it did feel like, I don't know if this team's really trying to win this year. Like, there was definitely some defensive gaffes, and yeah, I don't know. I think Fowler's going to be a nice, good, quiet ad that hopefully we don't need, but it is good to have.
While we're talking outfielders, too, I just want to bring up Teoscar Hernandez, because he sure doesn't get the love he deserves in a lot of cases, and he has come so far over the last few years, and I just want to point this out to Blue Jays fans. I'm even guilty of Teoscar being the forgotten man.
Okay.
And even if you think about his defense, like, think about his defense, Adam. Think about how both you and I in 2020, when we started this thing, were literally pulling our hair out, being like, why is this man getting so many starts in right field? It is a nightmare out there.
Yeah, it was ugly.
And I'm not
times.
saying it was ugly, right?
Yeah, weird
I'm not
path to the
saying
ball.
that
It felt like a lot of stuff would be over his head that shouldn't have been. He'd take the first step in on something that should have been a first step back.
Weird routes to the ball.
Yeah.
And now he is a major league average outfielder. And I'm not even going to sit here and tout him as above average, but man, Like, just having that average, everyday right fielder go in there and do his job, there's something to be said for that with Teoscar. Defensively, he has put a lot of work in to become major league average.
Yeah, no,
And his bat.
His bat is definitely above average. Defensively, he is not a whole. I don't worry about him in right field out there. Like
Me neither, and I used to.
Yeah. Do you think? And I know we'll get back to Teoscar here in a second, but do you think that means that there's a chance, a hope? Are you optimistic that Lourdes can do the same thing? I'm still worried about him in the outfield. In the air, I think he's good, but on the ground, man, routine ground balls. What's funny about always worried.
What's funny about Lourdes is he has 2 Gold Glove runner-ups in a row now in 20 and 21, which is because he inspires no confidence.
Oh, it's all in the arm.
But I was just going to say, but he's got a cannon on him. So even if he's taking weird routes to the ball, guys are still a little bit trepidatious to hop on their horse and get to third base or make that round for home, right?
Weird to think. It's just weird to think that Lourdes Gurriel, who can't handle a ground ball and has a cannon of an arm, was originally brought up to play second base.
Yeah.
Not the skill set you think of when you think of second base.
No.
Oh, strongest arm in the infield. Where are we going to put him? Well, let's put him at 2. Teoscar,
these
though,
are stats.
Can mash.
Yeah, I saw these stats the other day, and I just wanted to bring it up because it is kind of wild. These are his numbers since June 5th, 2019. That was when he was recalled from AAA. Okay. I don't know if you guys remember. 2019, he was sent down. So was Lourdes. Both of them were sent to AAA to work on stuff, and both came back and have been lights out since. So since June 5th, 2019, Teoscar Hernandez is 7th in the American League in home runs. He's 7th in the American League in RBIs, tied with Vladdy, actually. He's 10th in the American League in OPS in the last 3 years with an 880 OPS. Like, dude, these are elite offensive numbers. And this is a guy who just chugs along, does his thing, puts up 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, and a huge OPS every year in the middle of this Blue Jays order, and he just gets forgotten about. It's so crazy.
Yeah, he does get forgotten about, and boy, do we ever underestimate the value add that he gives to Vladdy's bat, just having that pop in the batting order right behind Vladdy. I think really, I mean, you have to give Vladdy something hittable. You can't just when we look at the Washington Nationals, for example, right? And we look at a guy like Juan Soto, who's just, this is an exaggeration number, but 600 walks a year, right? That would be Vladdy if we didn't have the stacked lineup around him, right? So it definitely is a team sport, and it's good. And now this year we're going to have Chapman behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that is such a great point. Where do you slot Teoscar? Because I kind of have him hitting cleanup. I have him in that 4 hole. Is that where you would want him in this lineup?
Yeah, do you want to just run down prospective lineups and see where we differ? Because I think we both agree we're going to start with Springer, and then Bichette.
I want Springer. I also
Vladdy.
want Bichette in the 2 hole. I want Vladdy in the 3 hole. Okay. I want Teoscar in the 4 hole.
Teoscar in the 4 hole. And now I think we start to get into the question marks. Do we put Chapman 5? Is Chapman 5?
So personally, I think Gurriel and Chapman are interchangeable between 5 and 6. I don't really care the order there. I'm all for Chapman 5, Lourdes 6. But honestly, if you put Lourdes 5 and Chapman 6, I'm 100% fine with that. Watching 7 go to, let's say, DH with Alejandro Kirk, and then into Kevin Biggio, into Danny Jansen. Or even swap Biggio and Jansen there. Put Biggio 9th. I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, I think that for opening day, I think we'll see Lourdes hit number 5, and I think it's just the incumbent of it all, right?
Yes.
Like we talked about this with Barrios being the opening day starter as opposed to Gosman. if it is just a push, I think we're just going to say, you know what? Clean slate. Everybody's hitting 0 right now. Right? Nobody has the stats to argue that they deserve to be higher in the lineup. So let's just give it to Lourdes. It's his spot to lose, or Chapman's spot to take. Not that anybody's really fighting for the 5 spot in a batting order, but yeah, I don't know. I think also it might benefit
this lineup's
Lourdes.
gonna mash either ways, right? Like it's gonna mash either way.
I think that Lourdes would benefit from having Chapman's bat behind him more than Chapman is going to benefit from having Lourdes's bat behind him, just from like a youthful confidence kind of a standpoint. Like I think Chapman's just going to be a professional no matter where he goes. I think he's going to just hit well. And Lourdes, I think, is still young, and I have confidence in him. I'm just not sure that he has confidence in himself. So I do think that protect his bat a little bit.
This could be a big year for Lourdes. He's 29. He's kind of hit that point where he's been in the league for a number of years. He's got some experience. He knows what is expected of him. He knows where he slots in with this lineup. Yeah, right?
Holy. I keep thinking
we're going to have to stop calling him
like
young.
24, 25. Yeah. No, it's crazy.
So this is something that I can't help but wonder how the chips are going to fall on this, because the Blue Jays play 30 games in 31 days. So from April 8th to May 9, they have 1 day off. This season's going to be intense, man. Like, there's going to be teams who suffer some injuries early on, are going to be forced to try and grind out 30 games in 31 days and wind up falling out of the race before they even have their footing.
Yeah.
Man, like losing 11 days at the beginning of this season, it didn't feel like a big deal, especially to the fans, but my goodness, has this been compressed, and you're starting to see it in the schedule. And this Blue Jays opening schedule is rough. Man, so through May 18, they play 9 games versus the New York Yankees, 7 games versus the Boston Red Sox, 6 against Houston, 3 against Tampa, 3 against Cleveland, 3 against Oakland, 3 against Texas. So they do have some bottom dwellers there in the AL West with Oakland and Texas. Every other team, a bit of a meat grind to get through that.
So, okay, let's look at April then. How many total games do we have in April?
That is a good question. So April 18th is the 1 day off, and it starts on the April 8th. So
it's a 30-day month. So we have like 22, 21 games?
22, yeah.
So I just want to put a little bit of a perspective before we even start down this road. What's a record that we should be concerned with, and what's a record that we shouldn't be? I mean, obviously we're all thinking like 18-3 through April, right? That's that 100-win trajectory that we're all hoping for. But if this team starts 11-10, I'm definitely not worried if we get through healthy. And
I feel the same way. When I look at this schedule in April and early May, I kind of feel like if we come out of this above 500, we're fine. We're on pace. We've kind of gotten through the hardest part of the season. Because if you look at it, honestly, this is the hardest part of the schedule for the Blue Jays, is April into early May. Mm-hmm. And it's because of how often they play the Red Sox and the Yankees. 16 games. 16 games they play the Yankees and the Red Sox in that first 30. It's a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if we're below 500 at the end of April, you know what? I'm gonna just say this.
I still don't panic. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna say this. As long as we have like at least like 6 or 7 wins, as long as like the wheels haven't fallen off and it like looks bad. Like if we're just losing games and that's how it goes, right? Like, But if we have bad injuries, that's a concern. If we lose a key piece,
Bad tacos.
Sorry, bad tacos. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to be too concerned though. Even if we go 5-16, but we're competitive, and it's just like, bad luck through 16 games. 162. We have lots of time to recover.
I don't see it happening. I don't either. I think this team is going to be fine. But I get what you're saying. Yes.
I just want to put everybody relax. Like I do have. This is the first time in 25 years of me actually watching base. I've been watching since I was like 8 or 9. Of actually having confidence that this team can put a sustained run like we did at September together.
Yes.
I feel like for 25 years I've been watching teams that it just feels like, I don't know. Even when we're good out of the gate, I feel like, well, we're not going to keep this up, right? Like those Doc Halladay years and everything like that. It's just, this is the first time I actually have genuine confidence in this team.
Yes, this squad inspires confidence. Of course they do. You look at this lineup, and it's hard not to be excited, and it's hard not to be like, this is the year. So we'll see where it lands up, but it is a rough schedule to start things off. We're going to do a quick 180 here because I saw a stat and wanted to show a little bit of love for Canadian lefties, but this is a really cool stat. So left-handed hitters since the expansion era, so that's 1961, to record at least 300 home runs, 400 doubles, and a batting average above 300 with an OPS plus of above 140. There's 2 guys on this list, Joey Votto and Larry Walker. Couple Canadian boys, couple lefties. Kind of a neat little stat.
That's a neat little stat, but it felt a little Mr. Baseball for me. Like, can you tell me the Canadians who led the league in ninth inning doubles in the month of May too? Like,
yeah.
No, but those are all big, impressive numbers. So that's really cool.
I mean, of course, Larry, the lone, other than Fergie Jenkins, the lone offensive guy from Canada in the Hall of Fame, Cooperstown. And Joey Votto probably, if there's going to be another Canadian inducted in the next decade, it's probably Votto. So
he's our next best chance.
Interesting stuff. Okay, so we're going to get to the end of this here. We're going to wrap things up with the next couple little thoughts. I did want to get into Michael Conforto because I loved this tweet. So Ken Rosenthal tweeted out yesterday, free agent outfielder Michael Conforto landed irregularly on his right throwing shoulder, diving for a ball during a workout in January, and wanted to get back to 100% before resuming contract negotiations with clubs, according to his agent Scott Boras. Oh, this made me laugh. Because you know what it sounds like? It sounds like, your buddy who gets back from summer camp and is like, I swear I was making out with this chick all the time, bro. That's why I haven't moved on to these, next girls. It's why I don't talk to girls, because I'm still like talking with my summer camp girlfriend, right? And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that Boras kind of, Scott Boras talked Michael Conforto out of an extension with the Mets? He talked him out of taking the qualifying offer, and now it looks like Conforto doesn't have a dance partner. Do you think they overplayed their hand here?
Yeah, probably. I don't know the significance of this injury and
whether or not they were not negotiating or were negotiating. It seems silly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think they probably allegedly the injury happened in January, right? So
they haven't been negotiating this whole time? Like, come on.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to buy that?
Yeah, it's a weird statement to even make. I think obviously he would have turned down the qualifying offer earlier than the injury had happened, right? So there was confidence going into free agency. Then the injury I don't know. I guess he just it's a weird situation.
It's a weird situation.
I feel bad for Conforto, honestly.
I kind of feel bad for Conforto, too. We'll see how this plays out. He is the lone high-end free agent remaining on the market. Lefty bat, outfielder. He's
You know what?
obviously looking for a multi-year deal, which is why I think there's been a holdup. I don't think it's this injury, this phantom injury we're just finding out about right now. But
No, and there's going to be there's going to be some team that needs him eventually, and he's going to get a big paid. Like, it just feels like he's not going to just miss the season because of this, right? Like,
no, something will happen. Something's got to give.
someone's going to have
sure.
bad tacos.
Do you think it winds
the
up being-
Yankees are going to panic.
Do you think he might take a 1-year deal?
I guess, yeah.
It would need to be for substantially more than the qualifying offer, which was $8.2 million. But I wonder if there's a team that goes in there and is like, "We'll tell you what, we'll give you $23 million." The Marcus Semien, if you will, slightly more than Marcus got from the Jays last year, but same sort of idea.
Well, how long do you think until he's healthy? Like, if this is an actual injury, right? Like, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I can just see him not signing until May or June, right? And then a team who, like, is surprisingly in the mix, like the Cincinnati Reds, who
Maybe
did
the
everything
Twins
they
go
could
out and get
to
him?
sell their
Yeah.
team, or like, hey, we actually these prospects are pretty good. Conforto would be a nice. I don't know. I mean, he's probably gonna get a good chunk of change, but yeah, I don't know. It's a weird situation. I think he'll still get paid. He's gonna end up being a Yankee or going to a contender. I think Twins, like you said, a good candidate if something weird happens there.
Do you think he gets a multi-year deal?
This year, that's a toss-up for me. I could see it just being it's a 1 year. Let's prove it and re-roll the dice on free agency next year. How old is he? Do you know? Is he 30? Wrong side of 30?
30. Yeah. No, he's 30. So
Yeah. So, I mean, he could still sign a multi-year deal. Like, he's not a mega deal guy anyways, right? He's not going to get
no, for sure.
10 years, 300 million, right? So he might still... You could sign him to 3-4 years, 110, 120 million next year.
Yeah.
Whatever the numbers are going to be, right? Like,
Whatever the number winds up being.
I don't think the difference between being 30 and 31 is going to impact a guy like Conforto. So maybe it is a 1-year deal.
Okay. Would you want to see him on the Blue Jays? I think I want that lefty bat if it's a 1-year deal. I know you don't care, but
I don't care. I don't care about the lefty bat.
the handedness.
The handedness of it all. Yeah. I don't really know, if I'm just being completely honest. He's got a fun name to say. And that's about as good as I could say about him. Like, I don't know. I don't
know either.
I do think
I get what you're saying. It's like, is he going to be an upgrade? Like, that's a good question to ask, right? Is he going to be an upgrade in left field or wherever that they wind up putting him over a Lourdes or a Teoscar? I doubt it. So I don't know. I don't know if I see a fit there.
Can I talk vaccine hesitancy without being on either side of the what's right to do? Because
with me, you can. The YouTube comments may differ.
That's all right. We're buried at the 40-minute mark. So there's a lot of people who are like, F him if he won't get vaccinated. I just had a big argument with my brother about this, and athletes and guys who get vaccinated or don't get vaccinated. I don't really, at the end of the day, feel strongly one way or the other. But what I do, because that's the speculation, right?
Yes.
Is that's why Toronto didn't get him earlier in the free agency, had to do with the whole border situation and everything like that. Okay. I do think that just that attitude, that like strong-willed, like me first attitude, because I do think that is the only reason for any of these athletes to not get vaccinated, is that they're putting themselves and their own personal health and performance and whatever justifications you want to use, right? But that is a selfish move in the grand scheme of things, right? To say, I'm concerned about my safety or my health or my symptoms or whatever from getting the vaccine, so I don't want to do it. So that mindset, for me, is the biggest concern. Whether or not he's vaccinated, I really don't care, right? But it's just the idea of bringing in a guy who puts himself ahead of the team, mixing that in with the chemistry of what we've got here is a little bit of a concern. So that's where I come down on the Conforto thing, and where I do think that his vaccine choice does play a role, right? Like,
okay.
I don't see a lot of strong-willed, stubborn guys on this team, I guess. I'm not sure how that would fit.
It's a good point. It is the mindset, and it is something to definitely evaluate when you're thinking about who you're going to bring into a clubhouse. Absolutely. It's a great point.
Yeah.
Okay, let's end on Albert Pujols, because this is just a feel-good story, right? Awesome. Signs a 1-year, $2.5 million contract with a bunch of, benchmarks for add-ons or whatever. Right. I should have the actual terminology down here, but yeah, he gets, I guess, bonuses if he hits certain
performance incentives. Yeah. Sure.
Exactly. And he's going back to the team he started with, going back to the St. Louis Cardinals, the team that he won the World Series with in 2011. This is a team that he became a folk hero in St. Louis. The fans love him. This is a big celebration, his return to St. Louis. It's pretty cool. And he also stated, he did bring up, so number one, he brought up that this is going to be his actual last year of baseball. He's going to retire after this year. So this is his Derek Jeter tip of the hat tour that some of these guys like to do, right? So every stadium will celebrate him, and he should be celebrated in every stadium. He did also say that it's been a dream of his since he played with Yadier Molina to actually retire with him on the Cardinals. So they are both in their final years. Kind of neat that we're going to see Yadi and Pujols retire together on the team that they brought to the World Series. I think it's a really fun little way to tie a bow on his career.
Yeah, it just goes to the romance of baseball. And it just feels right. We talked about, would you DH for the Pirates? That would have been so bad. This is the perfect place for him to go if he's going to go anywhere.
It is.
You couldn't ask for a better ending, as long as he gets to 7. So how many home runs short is he?
21. I was just going to ask you that. 21 home runs short of 700 for his career. Do you think he hits it?
We have 2? He would be the third all time to hit 700, right?
Yeah. It's such an elite number. It is such a huge milestone.
I'm skeptical.
He'd need to have a better year than he's had the last few years, that's for sure.
Yes. I'm skeptical that this is 100% his last year.
Okay.
If he falls short in an embarrassing way, right? If he hits 4 home runs this year, then yeah, it's his last year. If he hits 18 this year, I don't know how he doesn't come back.
Yeah.
It's 698. I don't know how he doesn't come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It does feel a little bit like, you burn the boats to take the island, right? I do feel like this is maybe even just from a mental performance standpoint. He's telling himself, look, I've got to get 21 home runs. This is it. And I don't want to pussyfoot around and take 3 or 4 years to get those last 20 home runs.
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's retire.
Let's do it.
Let's go have a big season. And he could do it. I could see him putting up 25 home runs.
He could do it. So. Especially in that DH position in the Cardinals lineup.
Absolutely.
It depends where they slot him in, but let's be serious. If he's hitting behind Tyler O'Neill and he's in the middle of that lineup.
Now, here's a question for you, and this is a controversial question, Scott. Last time we had a guy pushing for 700, it was A-Rod, correct?
Yes.
The attitude league-wide towards A-Rod was slightly different than the attitude towards Albert Pujols, right? Can we say universally beloved?
Yeah, I would say so.
There's nobody who's Albert Pujols, F that guy, right? Doesn't have any
probably
drama.
the most negative thing that maybe could have been said about him over the last few years was that he was being overpaid in
Sure,
Los Angeles.
sure.
Maybe that's the worst thing that could be pointed out about Albert Pujols. Right?
And I've pointed it out. That was a bad
Yes,
contract.
you have. Yes. Yes.
But no, he's not like, he's not a villain at all. Do you think, and I hate to even say this, but do you think there's any soft pitches that get thrown his way early on this season?
No.
No?
Nah. No.
No. All right.
No.
Well, I'm not, let's just leave it at that then. I'm not even going to.
Let's end it on that.
All right.
All right. Always a pleasure, buddy. Thank you very much to everybody who has clicked subscribe on our YouTube. Actually, it's kind of cool. We are literally 70 or just over 70 subscriptions away from hitting 3,000, which is a big milestone. And we're hoping to do it before April 8th. Before opening day. We're right on par right now. We've kind of been gaining 10 a day, so it looks like we might do it. If we don't, we're going to Albert Pujols this and strut back out there for April 9th and finish the job. But
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great analogy.
I did just want to bring this up because it is a really cool milestone, and just a huge thank you to everyone who has taken the time to ever listen to these couple of boneheads. Adam and I just ramble on about baseball. I know we're not the biggest experts on the planet, but we do enjoy our Toronto Blue Jays and talking it. So thank you very much to the community. The walk-off community has been nothing but supportive. Everyone who has taken the time to join Discord. Of course, there's still a free link. You can join for free in the show notes currently. Everyone who has hit subscribe on the audio side of things, it's very appreciated, or who has taken the time to download wherever you do get your podcasts. Anyways, so just a very big shout out and thanks to everyone who has ever, I know I'm just rambling now, but you know.
That's right. Do you want to tell me what your grocery list is for later today too? Or anything else you want to add? I don't know. All right. Good talking to you, Scott. We'll see you Sunday for Long Toss.
Yeah, always a pleasure, man.
Cheers.
Yeah, take care.